Hello, hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, depending on what part of the world you are watching me from tonight. Well, it's evening here, and thank you for tuning in again today. It's Monday, another time for our talk show. Let's share it. I hope you had a nice weekend. I had a very lovely weekend, very restful one actually. So, I do hope you enjoyed a nice weekend too, as we're all preparing for Christmas now. Well, today I want us to talk about our immune system. But just before I go into that, because of those who are watching us for the first time, I'm here on behalf of Listening Ears. Listening Ears, I'll tell you a little bit about us. Listening Ears is an award-winning charity. We are based in Greenwich, and we've been going on for 14 years. Yes, we just clocked 14 at the end of October this year. So we're already on a ladder to the 15th year, God willing. And we thank God for the number of lives that we have been able to positively impact with our projects. Listening Ears believes that a problem shared is already half solved. So the focus of our charity is to provide emotional health and lifestyle support service. And we have three main areas of passion where we focus all our activities. And the first one is about reducing isolation among elderly people, which we do via our projects, Feel Good Centers, and the Community Angels Befriending and Outreach Program. And of course, we have the award-winning Rosebud Center for Girls, where we support young girls up to the ages of 19, from age 7 actually to 19. We give them a space just to be girls, and they receive support on their journey to adolescence. And of course, we are very passionate about supporting people to make sure you enjoy a better health and an improved total well-being. So those are the areas where we center all our activities. And even in spite of the pandemic, for our elderly people's project, we've still been able to continue to run our sessions online. Don't try my elderly people, all of them now can go on Zoom. We go on Zoom and then we do our exercises. They socialize still and then still continue to make new friends, because of course we have new people joining the project every week. So we do all that we normally would have done. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you. Yes, we do all normally would have done even when there was no COVID. But now that there is the pandemic, well, it is what it is. We just try and just make the best out of whatever situations or circumstances we find ourselves. So if you are out there and you have anybody who is an elderly person and you think they should benefit from the services that we are rendering, please feel free to either send an email to feelgoodcenters@gmail.com or to help@listeningears.org. And then one of the members of the team will attend to you and will give you the necessary forms to complete. And pronto, your elderly person can join. Excuse me. Excuse me. Sorry about that. One of those things. Yes. So if you want to, as I go on today, if you want to contribute, either you want to, excuse me, either you want to make a contribution or you want to ask a question, you can, there's a phone number I'll give you to call. You can either type in the chat box, I'll read it out here and then we can attend to it, or you can make a phone call or make a WhatsApp call. And the number to call is 07554 655 695. 07554 655 695. And then, of course, I'll be able to attend to your questions or your contributions. Yes, like I said, today we are going to look at our immune system. And I decided for us to look at this because of the times we are in at the moment, because it's a very challenging times. But then once we are well informed, we will be able to take responsibility and still get the best of whatever circumstances we find ourselves. Because to be honest with you, that's always my attitude to whatever one has to do in life, because you cannot always control every situation you find yourself. Sometimes you find yourselves in situations that you have absolutely no control over, but your ability to be able to manage that situation to the best is what actually makes you, makes your life worth living, and makes you on top of whatever you need to do. Good evening. How are you, Richard? Yes. So because of the times we are in, it's cold and it's the flu season ordinarily, and people everyone is being terrified about being brought down by an illness, particularly because of the pandemic that is spreading. And then again, because of the time of the year, because even if there was no pandemic, at this kind of time, people are susceptible to having flu or having cold because of the season and because of the temperature. So it is very terrifying. So it is now much more pronounced and much more terrifying, or much more alarming or concerning, because of the particular situation we find ourselves now all over the world. So that's why I think, and I told you, I always want to make sure what I share here is something that is going to be beneficial to everybody. And the more they say knowledge is power. So the more knowledge and the more information we have about whatever we have to deal with, I think the better placed we are. So that's why today I thought we should talk about our immune system, because you see, your immune system and your overall health, they are so very much related, because your immune system is your number one protective mechanisms that protects you maybe from bacteria, from viruses, and then from all other kinds of diseases or infections. And the stronger your immune system, obviously, the more you can resist infections and viruses that can attack your system. If your immune system is weak, that means you'll be more vulnerable to frequent colds, to sinus infections, and several other infections, and even slow wound healing. If you have a wound, if your immune system is not in top gear, it will be difficult for it to heal. The healing process will be very slow, extremely slow. In fact, sometimes it may not heal at all. So today I want us to look at very simple, basic daily habits that actually destroys our immune system and could be putting us at a very high risk. But a lot of times we don't think about those things because they are things we take for granted most of the time. But one key thing I want to emphasize, and that I can actually not emphasize enough, is to say that your lifestyle and diet choices, they often determine whether you get sick frequently or not. So that is the bottom line any day. Now, the very first thing I want us to look at that might push our immune system down is if we have poor sleep, if we have poor sleeping patterns. There was a time several weeks ago we spoke about the benefits of sleep. But while I was doing all my research here and there, checking out information that I want to give you when we talk about the immune system today, I discovered that even our poor sleeping habit can be very, very detrimental to an averagely good functioning immune system. And you see, because sleep is when your body recharges and heals. That's the simplest definition I can give sleep. And if you are not getting enough of it, you are denying your body of the downtime that it needs to stay on top of all the invading pathogens, in your body. And then, there are various studies that shows that sleep restriction and sleep deprivation with the development of diseases like obesity, diabetes, and hypertension, they just go hand in hand. And you see, the challenge with all these kinds of challenges, these health challenges, they don't happen overnight. They kind of happen on a gradual basis. So if we little habits that we are taking, oh, thank you very much. Thank you for your contribution there. Yeah, someone says sleeping is the best antidote for stress. Actually, it looks like you are reading my notes today, because that's part of the things I'm coming to later as a part of the things that we can suffer from. Is actually the very next one after this sleep. It's like maybe you have seen my notes. That's interesting. Yeah, so for us to be able to sustain a functioning immune system, we have to have enough sleep. And enough sleep means we should practice. There are quite a number of things, because even when we sleep and when we wake up is very important. So if we can try to, I know it's difficult, but it's about making up our mind that, you know what, this is something I need to do. So it's not generally about what I want to do, but what we need to do. So if we decide that we need to do it, if we can, that's why I said if we can, I'm not kind of giving a kind of a rule, but it is advisable that if we can have between 7 and 9 hours of sleep every day. It's difficult for so many of us, even me. Even me, I'm also guilty of it. I'm trying, because since I have discovered the impact that sleep takes, in our mental and in fact, in almost every aspect of our existence, is so crucial. But today we'll concentrate on its effects, plus or minus, on our immune system. So if we can have between 7 to 9 hours of sleep in a day, it would be nice. And one more thing that we can try to do as part of our to-do list is if we can try to sleep at the same time every day and wake up at the same time every day, so that after some time, our body starts to get used to a pattern. And then when it gets used to that pattern, it's then easier for the body to kind of function in sync with each other, with different parts of the body, because the head already knows how the feet works, the feet knows how the hand works, and then all of them are able to gel together without disagreements, or with minimum disagreement, if I can say that. Now, the very next thing is stress. That's why I said my note has leaked here. So the next thing is stress, and then obviously a lack of sleep triggers the same response as chronic stress. That's the problem. But a lot of people don't know that. Although we might not realize it, but the physical and emotional demands of our everyday responsibilities, they can indeed drain our immune system's ability to fight off bacteria and viruses. So when our body is constantly fighting to repair the damage caused by stress, then it has fewer resources available to address all other invading problems. You see, because our body we can't overwork it. If our body is doing more than it is supposed to do, in terms of the times it is supposed to rest, even it impacts on our digestive system as well. Because you see, when we sleep, that's when our digestive system is able to rest and repair itself. So if we don't do all this, if we don't have enough of this sleep, that means all the repair that should go on in the body doesn't have the opportunity to go on. And obviously, it's like using a car and you are not servicing it. Well, it may not break down the first month you are supposed to, that you didn't service it, but gradually, and trust me, the day that car is going to tell you, you know what, I am going anywhere today. That's what some people will say, the car is riding that person. So when that is going to happen, it's not going to be funny at all. So it is important to note all these things. They are very, very tiny, almost negligible things, but we take them for granted, but they are very, very crucial. So it is important for us to make sure we have enough sleep and then we reduce stress as much as possible. The next thing I want us to take a look at is our sugar intake. You know, there are quite a number of people, well, so many people, well, many of us are guilty of this particular point I'm talking about. And that is because a lot of times, you see, sugar hides itself. It doesn't have to come just like sugar, but they come in several other ways as well. And then for instance, anybody who drinks or eats sugary foods to satisfy their cravings, the bad news is that it's going to adversely affect their immune system. And they may not realize that. People might think sugar is just all about being overweight or about diabetes or about stuff like that. But when we consume too much sugary foods, it actually adversely affects our immune system, particularly refined sugar, because it has the ability to reduce our white blood cells, and that's the one that kills the germs. So if it reduces it, it won't be able to kill the germs. And of course, when germs are just having a field day in our system, I don't need to tell you what the result of that is going to be. So if anytime we need to snack, if we can try not to snack on sugary things, it would be nice if we can snack on fruits. I said this a couple of episodes ago, previously on this program, I spoke about that. So if we can, when we want to snack, if we can snack on fruits, it would be nice. But even those who want to increase their sugar intake, maybe people are diabetic or something like that. Oh, hello, good evening. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm just saying thank you to everybody. I don't want to mention anybody's name in case people don't want it. And like I said, like I always say, we are very particular about respecting the privacy of people. I appreciate all of you who are watching, even if I don't mention your name as individuals. I have seen you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you for supporting me every week. So we are talking about the sugar intake that we need to, not necessarily because of diabetes or because of being overweight, but sugar actually plays a very derogatory part in our immune system, in suppressing it, because it's going to do a lot of harm, but we may not know that. So we can, if for instance we have to, because I know that for instance people who are diabetic or sometimes they need to boost their sugar level or something like that, they can take things like mango or some other, even apple. If you have a reason to increase your sugar level at any particular time, it doesn't have to be something sweet like a donut or like any of them sugary stuff. Yeah. So the next thing I want us to look at is about excessive drinking. You see, that one caught my attention because of the season we are in. We are moving towards Christmas now, and I know everybody will be people are already getting into Christmas mood. In spite of the corona, people will still celebrate Christmas, even if they are going to do it isolating themselves or just maintaining social distance and keeping in their houses and all that. They will still celebrate Christmas one way or the other. I mean, it's just it has become kind of part of existence. So people will still have to celebrate it. And that is why it happened to be one of the points I thought I was going to talk about today. Because drinking too much is very destructive for our immune system. Number one, and I'll tell you the reasons. Number one, it deprives the body of valuable immune boosting nutrients. That's number one. Number two, alcohol, like sugar, when it is consumed in excess, it can reduce the ability of white blood cells to kill the germs. And then, usually when I have any topic I want to share with us, I usually go around and do a lot of research. I go and check few, information here and there on from very reputable sources. And then one of them that I found said that high doses of alcohol actually suppress the ability of the white blood cells to multiply. and to inhibit the action of the killer white cells on cancer cells. And it lessens the ability of macrophages to produce tumor necrosis factors. You look at all that problem. And if we don't know, people will just think, you know what, I'm having fun. They are just drinking because it's Christmas, they are marrying, and they are doing that, not knowing. And you see, like I said, the problem is not going to happen on the day they drank it. I mean, if somebody drank too much during Christmas, the problem is not going to happen on the New Year's Day, for instance, which is just a week afterwards. But gradually, it's building up. And the day that immune system is just going to shut down, and apart from that, because it's depletes its efficiency, all that kind of time, any very tiny little exposure to any kind of infection or disease or virus, that person will just latch on that person. You see, so that's why it is very crucial to make sure one looks at all these little things that we take for granted. And then additionally, excessive alcohol consumption actually slows down digestive activities and it overloads the liver work. That's another thing I found out, thereby reducing its ability to store vitamins. So if our liver cannot store the vitamins, that's a problem. So even when, a lot of people, and some people even go to the extent of spending money to buy supplements and all that. But the thing is, if we don't do the homework properly, it's like just wasting money, because when the person drinks too much, it will overload the liver to do the work that it is actually supposed to do. And then the damage to the immune system will increase in proportion to the quantity of the alcohol that has been consumed. The amount of alcohol that are enough to cause intoxication, they are just enough to suppress your immune system. So we therefore need to bear this in mind, particularly as we are moving towards Christmas. You see, that's why, last week now, that what I spoke about was talking about Christmas, even in this kind of pandemic period, how we can still, be sensible about things that we do so that we will do ourselves minimal harm. We will not do ourselves too much damage. Now, the next thing that people also take for granted that they may not know really adversely affects their immune system is smoking. I learned from my research that smoking contains over 250 highly toxic substances, and the immune system is not made to process chemicals that are contained in cigarettes. So look at that, 250 highly toxic substances are contained in smoking. So if anybody is doing that, one of the things, it actually boggles my mind to think that with all the known health consequences that is associated with tobacco use, some people still go ahead and they still smoke it. Sometimes people, they don't realize that the nicotine exposure is making their immune system a kind of a sitting duck for illness. So the illness will just easily latch on to them, even if people are smoking the e-cigarettes. You see, because when I was checking that, because a lot of people now, they think, okay, they are not smoking the actual cigarettes, they are having the e-cigarette. So I went to check that, and I found that nicotine increases cortisol levels while reducing the B cell antibody formation and T cells response to antigens. So when I was now checking out the e-cigarette, see what I found out. It says that the vapor from the e-cigarette may actually damage the lungs and make them more susceptible to infection. So people might think because they are not really smoking the actual cigarette that maybe the e-one is better. It's not better. It might just be a little slower to do the damage. But at the end of the day, the damage is still going to be done. So for me personally, if there is any time to stop smoking, I think it is now. So that's a kind of a counsel for those who are still smoking. If there is a time, let me say, I think that's somebody sending a message. Let me just check. If there are questions, I've said the number. Let me see. I'm trying to see if that's a message for this show. Hold on a second. Okay, not a message for us. All right, that's fine. So 07554 655 695. That's the number. 07554 655 695. That's the number to call if you want to ask a question or you want to contribute to what I am talking about. Otherwise, you can also put in your question or your contribution in the chat box, either on the YouTube channel or on Facebook. Now, the next thing I want us to look at in terms of our immune system is about junk food. In terms of junk food, I'm sure I don't need to say too much about that, because all of us know generally that junk food is full of saturated fat. We don't need any prophet to preach that to everybody. Knows that junk food is very high in saturated fat, and we are also aware it causes obesity, even if we don't know any other thing. Almost everybody, I'm sure, anybody who is just telling anyone that now, it's like telling people the obvious. So junk food is high in saturated fat and causes obesity. That's a known fact. But the interesting thing is that even before the signs of obesity start to show, your immune system would have been badly damaged by this junk food. And one of the things I found out is that obesity will actually affect the ability of the white blood cells to multiply and to produce antibodies. And then that is what makes it to expose you to more infections, because the moment the body is not, the antibodies are not producing the white cells to fight the infections, then one is in a very terrible place. So the truth of the matter is that added sugars, they lock in almost every single processed food that we can think about. All the processed foods that are available to us, even the savory ones, there is sugar locking in different corners of them. And you see, for instance, I found out that, the can of soda, I found out that there are about 100 grams of sugar in it, and it has the ability to reduce white blood cells by 40%. Isn't that terrifying? It is so terrifying. So the negative effects of sugar on the immune systems start less than 30 minutes after consumption. That was another thing I found out that actually alarmed me. So less than 30 minutes after consumption, the negative effects will start, and it may last for 5 whole hours. So the effects stay in our body for 5 hours. So you can imagine the amount of damage it will have done to our immune system if something that is not good enough is staying in our system for 5 hours in a day or at a time. So those of us who make it a habit to eat junk food, well, like I have said all over time since in several previous episodes, it's a habit that we can gradually start to break. But the thing is, we have to come to the point of agreeing or acknowledging that actually there is a problem here that I need to change. There is something here that I need to adjust, because that is the only time that our journey for change can take place. But if we don't get to the point where we even acknowledge that there is a problem, and because for some people they might think, oh, you know what, if I just eat this one today wouldn't really do much harm. The problem is gradually it starts to build up, and if we are not careful, before we know what is happening, the whole thing is already completely out of control. So each time we want to take that little donut, donut can be very enticing. I used to really love donuts, but I had to discipline myself. I had to, get used to number. Like I said, the first thing what we need to do is to first acknowledge that there is a problem. And once we acknowledge that, you know what, this habit is something that I should not continue. And then, of course, we can now start to look at how do we break that habit. And then we can gradually do. And like I always tell you, we just take very small steps of change. We don't have to, we can't do it overnight. Thank you so much for joining. I've seen you, even if I didn't mention your name. I've always said that we like to protect everybody's privacy. But I see you joining. Thank you so much for joining me today. So it is very important to kind of turn a blind eye to that little donut, and then it will to do us a lot of good. Because like I said, the damage is not going to happen on the very day we ate it, but gradually it is building up. Then the other area I want us to look at is about living a sedentary life. You know, inactive lifestyle is harmful in every way for our body, any way we want to look at it. But I now discovered it is so terrible, even for our immune system. You know, ordinarily, if you were talking to people, even me that I'm in the health industry, when you are talking to people, when you think about inactive lifestyle, a lot of times, ordinarily, you probably wouldn't even be talking to people about their immune system. You'll be talking about them, about their healthy weight, about not being obese and stuff like that. But you know what? Being inactive actually is very detrimental to our immune system. So engaging in physical exercises actually reduces our vulnerability to suffering different kinds of diseases, particularly something like osteoporosis and heart disease. So exercises, apart from the fact that it reduces stress, it also increases the production of antibodies and the white blood cells. One of the things that I will expect everybody, those of you who are listening, or those who will still watch this program later, is that you will notice that from even all the points I have enumerated today, all of them continue to go back to the white blood cells and the impact they play in our immune system. And anything that is not enhancing either the production or the growth or the multiplication or the division of it, then that thing is something that we just have to work on and find how are we going to be able to remove it from either from our lifestyle or from our attitude or from whatever that we are doing. So that means we have to be physically active. It will be funny to you, the very next point I'm going to talk about, because now I'm just advising now that you need to be physically active. It will shock you to discover that even exercises, when it is too much, it can be bad for your immune system. When I was doing my research and I found this out, honestly, initially I was confused and I thought, hold on. But then by the time I now checked it out and I read a lot of other information to support it, checked other websites, checked other resources, because I want to always make sure I look for information on from trusted resources, maybe like the Department of Health and things like that. So I make sure that whatever information I am passing on to my listeners, they are not only good for them, but they are very authoritative and they are kind of authentic, you know, if you like. So when I discovered that you can actually do too much exercise, it baffled me. But then by the time I checked it, I discovered that if you overdo it at the gym, it can actually be as bad for your immune system as if you don't do it enough. So it's a funny thing. So at the end of the day, what we are talking about here is about setting some kind of a boundary, or maybe saying something like moderation. Yes, that's the word I'm looking for. Looking at moderation, because you see, if you are inactive, it is not good for your immune system. And then if you overdo your exercises, you see, because the thing is, the body has a limit, and when you try to push it beyond its limits, then it stops functioning correctly, and then your immune system too stops responding correctly, and then that person will fall a prey to infections, very easily. So that means, as a matter of fact, I think there is a particular limit of how much exercise, because all these things is has to do with our body weight, but at the end of the day, because I like to make things very simple, I don't like to make anything complicated. Otherwise, I would have been telling you, well, if you are XYZ weight or XYZ height or whatever, maybe you should do this or you should do that. Then that becomes complicated because people now need to start to look for scales to start to see, well, what is their weight, what is their height, what did Toyin say? Did she say we should do this or we should do that? That makes the whole thing so complicated, and we don't need any of that stress. So my bottom line is moderation. Moderation is, so we just make sure we are active enough. In fact, I tell people, when we are exercising, for instance, if you decide to ride a bicycle, or you want to have a jog, or you want to do some brisk walk, anytime we are doing exercises, I always tell people, when the exercise is on, the whole point is for it to make you walk your heart a little bit quicker than normal. But anytime we are exercising, we must ensure that we are still able to communicate at that time. I mean, if you are riding a bicycle, you can still be on your bicycle and still be able to say, hello, good evening, how are you? And then you are still riding the bicycle. But if you are riding the bicycle or you are doing any exercise and you're like, and you can't talk to somebody, that means you are overdoing it. And that's the time one knows that one needs to slow down. So if we overdo the gym, if we overdo exercises, it may negatively affect our immune system, which is not a usual thing to think about. One would have just thought it is if we underdo that there is a problem. But here, what I discovered is that when we underdo or we overdo, both of them are bad for our immune system. As a matter of fact, from one of the researches that I found out, I understand that too much strenuous exercise can be debilitating for the body and make it so vulnerable to infection. Ordinarily, one wouldn't have thought that. That's why I will actually ask that you please be tuning into this program every week, because I don't want to tell you anything that you already know. But when I discover certain things that I know that, oh, this is not really something that people will have thought about, particularly if there are things that we take for granted. You know, I like to lay emphasis on things that are they seem insignificant. I will call them small but significant. They might be very minute information, but they are very significant, because you see, if we don't put them into consideration, it might have a very negative effect on certain areas of either of our health, of our well-being, of our in different ways. It might have very negative impact. So I call them small but significant. So I try to challenge us to look at all these things and see how can we put them into consideration and use them to adjust how we look at things, what we do, what we don't do, and things like that. So please have enough exercise, but please don't have too much. Then another point is being a loner. Being a loner, it's all this talk about contagious room. I want people to, particularly because of this pandemic now. With the pandemic, you can't hug people, you can't do this, you can't do that, you need to socially distance. Yes, you need to. But you see, at the end of the day, it is still important that we have to find a way. You see, it's about being dynamic here now. We have to find a way that we are going to socialize and connect with other people. You see, because isolating yourself can actually be very detrimental to your immune system. So we don't necessarily need to hug people, but then there are loads. In fact, with the way things are working now, so many things happen now on Zoom. One can still connect with people. one can be able to talk to other people, one can still connect with friends, one can take part in activities, you can take part in so many things. In fact, you know what? That's why I was telling people, I was telling my listeners, I don't know how many weeks ago that I was saying, you know what, for me, I want us to, the day I was talking about us having an attitude of gratitude, you see, because as bad as the pandemic is, to be honest with you, there have been, for me personally, from my own perspective, there have been so many positive things that has come out of this pandemic, because a lot of opportunities that people never had before, they have it now. I mean, I can speak on certain things that I have seen in my work, in my ministry, in our charity, for instance. Look at our elderly people, for instance. If it wasn't because of the pandemic, a lot of them wouldn't be able to do things like the Zoom, do things like using the social media and stuff like that, because they might think, you know what, that's for young people. Or they may not even if they wanted to, who is going to teach them? The time is just not happening. There might be so many reasons why that is not happening. But look at now, at least I can talk from my own perspective here. And I really give a big thanks to God for it, because all our elderly people now, all of them now come on Zoom. They are now digitally literate. They can operate the Zoom. They can operate their iPad, their laptops, their phones. They can Skype. They can do so many things. And you see, if it wasn't for the problem that came about because of the pandemic, that probably wouldn't have happened. So each time when we have challenges in life, seriously, it is good to step back a little bit and not just continue to moan and to complain. At least we look at some positive things that we can see out of that particular kind of situation and still be grateful. So back to my point, I was talking about how being a loner or keeping to yourself can actually negatively impact your immune system. You have to find a way of connecting with other human beings. In fact, when I was doing my research, there was something I found from a Journal of Neuroimmunology. I hope I can call that correctly. But there's something I found there, and it says anxiety caused by loneliness actually suppresses the immune system and triggers more oxidative stress or damage caused by free radicals. Can you imagine that? And then there was actually another research again. That one was published in the Psychological Science. And it suggests that simply hugging someone can have a stress-free buffeting effect and reduce susceptibility to illness. But when I looked at that and look and consider the situation we find ourselves now, where we can't hug anybody, I started to think, you know what? It's not just about hugging people, it's about the action that takes place. You see, because the thing is, when we are happy, there are certain kind of hormones that are released in our body. The same way when we are not happy, when we are sad, when we are miserable, when we are angry, all these things, they have effect on our being, on different parts of our existence. So even if we can't hug somebody, if I'm looking at you and in my spirit I am hugging you, I don't necessarily need to physically be touching you or be hugging you, but there is something that is released in my being that is already making my system believe that I'm actually hugging you, if that makes sense. So it's about not just being on our own and thinking, you know what, I don't know. For me, I just don't understand how people who don't want to interact or socialize with other people, I don't know how they cope. But for people who have always thought, you know what, I like to be on my own, and stuff like that. People who say that kind of thing, I have this little message for you today that is not actually good for your immune system to be staying on your own for too long, not to be interacting with other people, and because it's just not happening. We need to make sure we are connecting with people as much as possible. But even in these days of pandemic, in fact, it is much more important now because we are not going out as much as we used to go out. So we have limited opportunities to actually meet other people. So every opportunity we have now to interact with anybody, either through Zoom or through video calls or whatever, we should make the best of it and make sure that the enzymes in our system that should be released when we are happy is being released. And those that will be released when we are angry or we are kind of miserable is limited as much as possible. So we have to ensure that we are socializing as much as possible. Look for activities that we can do that can allow us to interact with other people. And like I said, there are lots of activities going on. You know what? Even reading messages and laughing. I mean, if you have friends who you know that they always send, I know some people that I have on my WhatsApp that when I want to laugh, I just go to I scroll to their name because I know that when I go and open, I have one of my brothers is like that. Anytime I go and open any of his messages, I will just be I'll be rolling in laughter. So, and then all of us have people like that in our lives. So if we have people who make us laugh, why not enjoy it? Laugh. It does a lot of good for your immune system, for your emotions, for your mental well-being. It is so crucial. So we need to make sure we enjoy every opportunity we have to laugh, to be happy, to smile, and not be miserable. If we can, we should reduce as much as possible all the opportunities or situations that make us look miserable or feel miserable. Yes. In fact, when we smile, I understand we are even prettier when we are smiling as opposed to when we are frowning. I'm sure if I was frowning now presenting this show, all of you who are online, you'll have logged off. But because you continually see my smile there, so you want to wait and listen. What does she want to talk about? But if I got here and I squeeze my face together, and I'm sure you're just going to log off and say, what's she on about today? Yeah. So the final thing I want us to look at today in terms of building our immune system is about our water consumption. Can you imagine that even that has an effect on the level of the working of our immune system? Of course, I know a lot of people know that, but we know, a lot of us know, if not all of us, that 75% of the human body is water. So proper hydration is very essential for a proper functioning immune system. And ironically, there is a research finding that says that as far as the immune system is concerned, water is actually more important than food. I found out that when I was doing all my research, so that if one had an option, if I'm trying to see how I'm going to articulate this, but the fact is the water is okay. That means you can do technically what I think the best way I can articulate this is that you can actually do without food for some time. You really can't do without water. So if you do without food, you can still survive. But if you do without water, it may be difficult. I think that sends the point home. I think that's what I'm trying to say essentially. So technically, water is more important than the food in terms of considering our immune system and how it works. So everyone is encouraged to drink between 8 and 10 glasses of water every day. Between 8 and 10 glasses of water every day. And that also depends on the climate where you are, how physically active you are. But it is good to take 10, maybe between 8 and 10 glasses of water. And what I tell people, this little bottle, this 500 mils bottle, because it might be difficult when I wanted to start taking enough water for the day, because you see, when I'm giving people suggestions, I like to use myself as an example. So I try to see what have I tried that worked for me, so that before I start to encourage other people to do it, so that in case you ask me questions, I'll be in a position to be able to answer you. But if it is not something I've tried before, and if it's just something I've read in the books, it will be difficult to support you, or to be able to explain, or to be able to answer any questions that emanate from the discussions we have had or the suggestions I have made. So what I did actually, is that I decided that, because it's easy to carry this size of bottle all around. As a matter of fact, you can put it in your handbag, or even you can get the smaller one. I think there is a 250 ml bottle as well. So if one takes it, that is, I'm talking about people who are not yet used to drinking enough water for the day. So I'm trying to give you a kind of a strategy to start. So because if you say, oh, they have told me I need to take 8 glasses of water in a day, and you sit down, you think you want to take 8 glasses of water, trust me, even if you do it the first day, I give you only 2 or 3 days, you will be frustrated and you will stop it. So it is better to start it gradually, so that if you took this kind of bottle, for instance, and you take it and just sip a little bit at a time, the moment you finish one, you have already taken about 1/8 of what you are supposed to take for the no, actually 1/4 of what you are supposed to take for the day, because the 8 to 10 glasses is about 2 liters of water, and if this is 500 mils, so once you finish one of this, you have already done a quarter of what you are supposed to do for the day. So which is very simple. As you sit down, as you do things you are doing, just sip a little bit at a time. Before you know what is happening, you will finish one bottle, then fill it up. If you are home, that you can fill it up, and if you are not, if you are up and about, just get into a shop and buy another 500 ml bottle, and continue to sip it gradually. Before you know what is happening, maybe the first time when you just start, maybe in a day you might finish only 2, but gradually, if you do that for a week, by the following week you start to see how can you increase it to about 3 bottles, and before you know what is happening, you've increased it to 4. In fact, after some time you discover some days you might even drink up to 5 or 6, depending on what kind of day. For instance, if it is during the summer, for example, where people are, you feel more hot, and then of course, or maybe you are exerting yourself, or maybe you are doing some exercise and stuff like that, which of course will necessitate you to have a little bit more water intake or fluid intake for that day. So it's something that you can just practice a little bit at a time, over time, and before you know what is happening, you get used to it, and then your body will be able to get all the nutrients that it needs to have for the day, at least from that water, and your immune system will be on its way to a very high level of functioning. So that's the information that I have for us today. It is very crucial for us to, at this time of our lives, much more than any other time, it's very crucial for us to look after our immune system, and to make sure that we put it in a place where it can actually be fit to be able to help us to ward off infections, and like part of the things that I said, even slow wound healing. Because if somebody has a wound and their immune system is very poor, that will even affect how much the wound will heal. Ordinarily, people will have thought if people are diabetic, if they had wound, it wouldn't heal quickly. But now we know that even if our immune system is not in a good place, if we have wounds, it will not heal very easily. So that's the information I have for us today. Thank you so much to everybody who has tuned in. And I would like to say at this point, to appeal to all our supporters, all the supporters of our charity, that we are still looking for more partners. We want partners who can join. Our partners are those who commit to giving us donations every month, as little as £5 a month. So if you want to become a partner of Listening Ears, you can go on our website www.listenears.org, and the details are there. You can complete the form to become a partner, and then you can our bank details are there. You can set up a direct debit from with your bank, and then they can give us as little as £5 a month. And if you want to give us more than that, we don't mind. We appreciate it. If you want to give us the millions, we will gladly take it. And then, of course, you can email us if you want us to send you the form by ourselves. You can email help@listenenears.org or feelgoodcenters@gmail.com. And like I also said, if you have girls who are between the ages of 9 and 16, our Rosebud Center program still runs online. All our workshops are on Zoom. Our workshops run between Tuesday and Saturday. Tuesday to Friday, we run our workshops for 1 hour between 5 and 6 because all the girls are going to school. So they have it as their after school sessions. And then on Saturdays, we run the workshop from 11 to 1. It's a more relaxed atmosphere for them. Most of the time, they do baking and cooking on Saturdays. So if you have any girl you want to register, if you go on rosebudcenter.org, you will find the registration form there. You will find the phone number for Rosebud. If you call that number, one of the members of the team will attend to you. And if you also have an elderly person who wants to join our Feel Good Center programs, we meet on Wednesdays and on Fridays on the Zoom. So we do our physical exercise, like we always say, you don't lose it. Sorry, you don't use it, you lose it. And we don't want our elderly people to lose it. So we make them use their limbs, use their hands and feet and all that. So they get physically active and they have a lot of fun on Wednesdays and on Fridays from 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So if you have anybody you want to recommend or you want to refer, please go on our website, listenenears.org, or you send an email to feelgoodcenters@gmail.com or to help@listenenears.org. And if you want to be our partner, like I said, please, we'll be happy for you to become our monthly partner. Also, please, if you shop online, that is actually an opportunity for you to help us to raise funds. It is the information is on our Facebook page, Easy Fundraising. Listening Ears is registered as a charity there, so that if you shop online, there are about 3,500 retail shops included there, including most of the airlines, eBay, Amazon, Argos, ASOS, all of them. So once you register, when you shop online, it doesn't cost you a penny. When you shop online, the retailer you have bought from will drop us pennies, will give us a donation. They give us pennies, but they all add up. So please, if you shop online, kindly look for this. If you just type in Easy Fundraising, or if you go on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel, you'll find the information, particularly on our Facebook page, about how you can register to fundraise for Listening Ears just by shopping, and it doesn't cost you a penny. And on Facebook, we're also registered on Facebook as a charity, so that if you want to, situations where they say raise money for your charity, please click us as your preferred charity, and then you can raise funds for us on Facebook. Thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for sharing with me today. Thank you for all those who have contributed online. Thank you so much. I'm grateful. I'm not taking your time for granted at all. And until next week, Monday, when I come your way again, please look after yourself, keep safe, and look after each other. God bless you. Thank you. Bye. Yeah.